This is the Sports Hit List. By the fans, for the fans.
Our final episode 6 of the Mount Rushmore series for pro wrestling. Carl Kalonch for the Sports Hit List. By the fans, for the fans. We are here for the GOAT debate. Greatest of all time. Let me introduce my panel. We have Hollywood Jay is in the building. Jay, how you doing, sir? Back-to-back episodes. What's up?
Good. How are you guys? I hope everyone is well. Carl, thanks for the invite. I'm looking forward to this episode.
Listen, man, this isn't baseball, so I didn't just invite the Puerto Rican for the baseball. I got you on pro wrestling again.
It's interesting that, I'm the only Rican on your panel. I don't know.
Hey, my great-grandmother was from San Juan. Come on now.
Shout out to Savio Vega. We already know the vibes on Savio Vega.
You know that's my guy, Carl.
Those Boricuas, man. I love me some Savio.
We have Matt Williams here from the Geek Nation, Geek President. How you doing, sir?
Doing great, Carl. Thanks for having me again. Appreciate the short notice, and I was prepared.
Let's do it. We have the comeback member of the year for the Sports Hit List, Rockland County's favorite son, Mr. Ricardo Etienne. How you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. Glad to be here. Glad to be on. This is the closeout, the official closeout show of the year, right?
Yeah, this is.
Glad to be a part of it, man. Thank you.
And we have the reigning, defending from the gray area and the rap round table MVP of the Sports Hit List, Mr. Ray Jarvis is in the building. Ray, how you doing, sir?
It sounds so great to hear that intro, man. Thank you for having me.
All right, let's not waste any time. Let's give the people what they want. They're always talking about the GOAT conversation, who's in the GOAT debate. Ray is the MVP, so let me give him, in his own words, his flowers first. Ray Jarvis, who cracks your list for all time?
Well, you know, to be clear, when we're talking about GOATs, there's going to be wrestling fans who are going to talk about the work rates and the great matches and things of that nature. There might be a luchador on the list because he was a great wrestler and he had a lot of high spots. But when I think about GOAT, I think about drawing ability. Did you make the whole point of professional wrestling, in my opinion, is to make money. When the guy puts a card together, when Vince McMahon put his cards together, Bill Watts, so on and so forth, it was to make the most money. So with that being said, the 4 GOATs, my Mount Rushmore here, I have at the top of the food chain. You know, you got to have Ric Flair. No list is complete without the Nature Boy. Okay. Second on that list, we're gonna go Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? Then we're gonna go Hulk Hogan. I was thinking about going Kazuchika Okada just to give New Japan some love, but I can't do that and then leave off the jabroni beating, pie eating, trailblazing, eyebrow raising, the people's champion, The Rock. Those are my 4.
Okay, so Ray Jarvis goes Flair, Austin, Hogan, and The Rock. Let's go to Rick. Rick, you're on the clock, sir.
All right, man. So, you know, I've been known to have some reckless takes on some of these Mount Rushmores, and you know, after being crowned comeback member of the year and whatnot, I figured what better time to come back with another crazy take. So obviously, y'all know my MO already when I'm coming to these Mount Rushmores. I may not always give y'all the answer that is the obvious answer that everybody's going to give. There's plenty of guys that can be mentioned that are going to be unanimously thought of as one of the GOATs. My 4 are, I'm going based off of me personally, the guys that I've been watching my entire life that have stood out for whatever reason for me. These are my GOATs. So starting off, I'm going with The Miz. In my opinion, I think
I'm out of here, Carl.
In my opinion, I think
Carl, control your man.
Can we listen? Can we speak? Can I speak? Can we listen? Can I speak? So listen, the reason I'm going with The Miz, and I expect this, of course, you know, for what the industry is right now, I think we got to see it transition and build from the things that The Miz was doing from way back, trying to get in the industry, bringing reality TV into it, bringing in the social media, bringing in the kayfabe, that crossover, you know, partnering with MTV and all of that. I think his impact on some of the things that we've seen the industry kind of transition to is huge. You know, I think he's been misused at times, and I think he can really carry the company if given the opportunity. So, you know, again, these are my guys. I'm giving my guys a flowers. So
ain't The Miz out filming the Marine 15?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know, but if they wanted to write him in to do other things, then he would be, you know. But next up, I know Matt's gonna love this one. So next up, my guy, I feel like if he wasn't injured when he was, Edge was on his way to being one of the greatest of all time. And for me, he's on my list, absolutely. If not for injury, you know, he was doing amazing things within the industry before getting hurt. Next up, the guy who's been the GOAT for me for just about my whole life was Shawn Michaels. I think that's one of the first ones that I remember seeing when I was younger and being like, whoa, what is this? You know, when I first started watching wrestling, there were other guys that I saw and I was like, yeah, this is cool and this is awesome and I'm interested in this. But when I saw Shawn, I was like, this is crazy, you know? And he's been able to do it from era to era to era and keep it moving. So again, up until recently, he was my #1 all-time GOAT. My new #1 all-time GOAT is Chris Jericho. What he's been able to do all over the industry, from promotion to promotion, country to country, crossover this, take this title here, bring it over there. I mean, all of the things we've seen Chris Jericho do at the top of just about every single promotion now at this point, there's no way to deny that he ain't the top guy.
Y2J, HBK, Edge, and The Miz. And you can tell in my tone I'm not pleased, but I will move on to the next person.
Carl, I'm surprised you're not co-opting The Miz.
Listen, hold on. Let's let everybody else get their picks in and we'll open the floor for discussion. Matt, you're on the clock, sir.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, GOATs. I personally mix more than just drawing power. What you can do in the ring is very important. And this was a tough one for me. So, Ric Flair, clearly, from the territory days to the WCW and WWE, and even to the, unfortunately, the running TNA. But he was still Ric Flair. He's still the nature boy. Love him or hate him. Fantastic heel, one of the best heels of all time. Make your local guy look great in the ring while still keeping that NWA title and obviously that lifestyle. Everybody wanted to be that Rolex wearing cat. So Ric Flair is definitely on that all-time, on that my GOAT list here. I can't stand the man, but there is no WWE, there is no WCW, and the impact in the business is not there without Terry Bollea, without Hulk Hogan. He exploded the business along with Vince McMahon in the WWF in the 80s. Rock and wrestling was huge, and Hulk Hogan made pro wrestling a mainstream thing. It was a local territory-based thing until he and his popularity within the Rocky III movies and No Holds Barred and Suburban Commando and going outside and really spreading his wings and making a pro wrestler a household name across the country and not just a local thing. And then obviously he's my favorite wrestler of all time. So there's a little bit of bias for me. I try to be objective, but a little bit biased, and the best worker to ever do it. And that's the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. Could work with everybody, giants, little guys, medium guys. Didn't matter who you were in the ring. Shawn Michaels made them look fantastic. And most wrestlers that we've talked about, their best match was against Shawn Michaels, or one of their top 5 matches was with Shawn. Flair, is all these, except for Hogan, but that's another discussion with that match. And then lastly, it was a tough one because there's names like Andre the Giant that should be talked about. There's impacts like Stone Cold, there's The Rock. But I have to agree with Rick on this one, and it's got to be Le Champion. It's got to be Chris Jericho. And a year ago, I talked about this on my one podcast, and I had him outside, but this past year has really shown me a lot, from the transition from New Japan to AEW, the run as AEW champion, the pass to WCW, WWE, ECW. Chris Jericho, to me, is just one of the greatest ever, and can constantly changing his gimmick and reinventing himself. And continually just being over regardless of what he's doing. From what he did with the List to his feud with Omega, his work with Okada, and then what he's doing with the Inner Circle in AEW is just fantastic work. And to me, that's my number 4 there.
Okay, so he goes Y2J, HBK, Hogan, and Flair. Jay, You're on the clock, sir.
Yeah. Let me just say first, your boy Rick, I don't even suffer from migraines, but as soon as he said the Miz, instant migraine.
You probably ain't seen the wide receiver episode, huh? you ain't know what I was bringing. All right.
Oh my God.
My list is very similar to Matt's. I went with, in no particular order, Hulk Hogan. A lot of what Matt said. There is no WWE, WWF. There is no WCW. There is no professional wrestling today, if not for the character of Hulk Hogan. Obviously, a big part of Vince owes everything to Hogan. That classic, gigantic. Like I tell people all the time, it wasn't the best match, but the biggest match of all time was Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. And just Hogan, what was it, like something like 1,474 days as champion. The character was larger than life. I don't know how old you guys, but like a Hogan WrestleMania match back in the day felt like an event. It was just huge. And then obviously, as his career transitioned to WCW, the greatest heel turn of all time. Like, think about going from bubblegum to Sour Patches, like in an instant, like being loved to absolutely hated. And taking that chance. So a lot's got like Hogan has to be on everyone's list. And I think it has been so far. And then Flair. Flair made it cool to be, the villain, the flashy, jaw slap, like whatever you wanted, he could, but he could also bring it in the ring. And just to think about his influence on even today's culture. Like a lot of people, like these young cats in like other sports who've never seen him wrestle, know who Ric Flair is and know his lines, can recite his classic promos. Flair is that guy. Like, to me, he's the GOAT, but that's another story. And then I agree with HBK. Just, how can you not put HBK, one of the greatest workers of all time? Just a lot of, a little bit of flair in him, but he, he had his own pizzazz. We thought we had seen the last of him after that great match against Stone Cold, and he recovers from the injury and comes back and still has a stellar second half of his career. And then lastly was a guy that I'm a little surprised that no one's put on their list, just because, again, I think about, like, if I think like HBK and Shawn are the two greats, I think about the greatest character of all time, and it's got to be The Undertaker. Okay. The Undertaker is lived, breathed, like he was his character through and through, and he wasn't a bad wrestler. He's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Think about that, that documentary series that just came out. I look forward to that more than I look forward to, Jordan's 30 for 30 series. Just like, getting to hear, from Taker's mouth himself about his career. Taker is like huge to me, and you think about like everyone in professional wrestling treats that man like the Godfather, and rightly so. Undertaker has to be on the Mount Rushmore. If you didn't love his wrestling, just think about his character. He breathed. That was him. Like the character was, him 24/7.
It's just so fitting. I mean, it was sitting on my desk. It was just sitting there. So, he goes The Undertaker, HBK, Flair, and Hogan. Rick, I gotta call you to the front of the congregation. I think you're trolling. I think you're absolutely trolling. The Miz is not near a top 10. How do you validate Miz being? How do you not even put John Cena on your list, but then you put the Miz? Like, to me, that doesn't it doesn't make any sense.
There are so many other names. You could have said AJ Styles. You could have said Macho Man.
We are not going to let you live this down, bro. You could have
said Bret Hart. There's so many actual names you could have said.
I have the authority to take away that comeback and give you bozo that. But just say The Miz. Again, I love The Miz. Don't get me wrong. I love what he's been able to do. I love the fact that he's never been injured. His consistency, he's great. Yeah. But as far as when you're talking about the greatest of all time, Miz doesn't belong nowhere near that. How can you sit here and make a case?
Right. So here's where I'm going to give you that explanation. Now, we run back the tape. We're going to look, and we're going to hear a lot of names over and over again. You want me to give you? I could give you my top 5. Shut up. Let's put Mount Rushmore to the side. I'm going to give you my top 5. Jericho for me now is number one. Shawn has always been number one. He's now number two. Now the next three in no particular order for me is going to be Rock, Flair, and Hogan. All of those names are going to be mentioned today. That's a given. All right. So when I'm looking at Mount Rushmore, you guys know from my episodes on every single other position, sport, whatever it is, I'm looking at it from different angles. And the reason why I put the Miz on there, and I'm gonna call Ray Jarvis to the front of the congregation to sit with me, because he once put his man OBJ on the Mount Rushmore of wide receivers. Nah, man. But we can also name plenty of other people that you could have said instead of OBJ too. You know what I mean? So the reason I bring that up, you're right. And you may not like him. I'm not an OBJ fan, so it sounded crazy. You know what I mean? I like him. You know what I mean? I think The Miz is absolutely phenomenal. Specifically, again, going back to what I'm saying, I look at his career trajectory. This is a dude who was on the real world and started saying how much he wanted to be this guy, built this guy long before he even got into the industry. That helped him to be able to get into the industry and build this guy and kind of build up that whole mystique. So that's cool. But again,
Ray, did you say X-Pac?
Crazy, right?
X-Pac heat. No one cares about The Miz.
Okay, you said, here's the thing. You say nobody cares about The Miz, but just the other day, out of nowhere, something we've never seen before, after cashing in a Money in the Bank briefcase, he's giving a Money in the Bank briefcase.
Horrible.
Okay,
That's just called bad writing.
You say that, but there's a reason why.
The reason why was
everybody
nobody
hates The Miz.
He's a fallback.
I get it, but then why not just let it rock? Why not just let it rock? Let him move on. You know.
Okay, so one name. Okay, so let me say this though. One name that I thought I'd see on here. I didn't expect to see Y2J. That's a great pick. Jay, I'm calling.
Really? Hold on. Whoa. You said you didn't expect it?
No, I didn't.
To have Jericho in there?
No, and here's why. John Cena. John Cena is not on anyone's list. Jay, that's your man's. I'm surprised you didn't go with John Cena. Why not?
Just because there's only 4 names you can put on there, and I think I can justify all 4 of those guys, their accolades before I can, John Cena has a stellar career. Though, 16 times the man is nothing to sneeze at. But when I think about, like I said, the reason why Hogan is on there is because what he's done for the business. The reason why Flair's up there is there's no need for me to even go into that. HBK, he can, nobody can walk in that man's shoes when it comes to in ring. And then Undertaker, like I said, there's a reason why that man is respected throughout the industry the way he's respected. You think about Taker the same way you think about Jordan, the same way you think about, in football, name whoever, Tom Brady, maybe whoever you want to name. Those, when I think of characters like that, I think about upper tier, that guy. I talked about Vince owing everything to Hogan. He also owes a lot to what Undertaker did for him. He could have left during that whole fiasco, but was loyal to that man. And you could talk about, he tweaked his character here and there, but that man was a constant for Vince, and a bodyguard behind the scenes.
Okay. Anything? I think the only other pick that was surprising to me was the Edge pick. Again, nothing against Edge. I love Edge too. During that, post-Attitude Era, going into Ruthless Aggression, Edge definitely was one of your top guys. Put on some incredible matches. But do you really qualify him as a greatest of all time? And I know Rick is stirring the pot here, but Ray, does he make a case for Edge? Is Edge kind of one of the forgotten ones in this debate?
Edge is an all-timer, bro, hands down. But I just don't look at him as a guy who shifted the culture enough to really be on this list. He was basically, we always talk about basketball. He was a great Pippen. He was never Jordan.
He was.
I
got one for you, Ray.
So
Ray, I got one. He was Mitch Richmond.
Man.
Edge was Mitch Richmond. That's what Edge was Mitch Richmond. Okay, he could do everything, but he's just not that dude. He's averaging 20. he's making all-stars.
Nah, he's a little bit
just
higher
not
than
that
Mitch.
dude.
Nah,
I'm saying this is wild.
Listen,
So-
don't forget, Edge had one of the highest rating Raws of all time. Don't forget that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he was
I'm
dripping.
saying,
Like,
don't forget how good Mitch Richmond was. Golden State and Sacramento.
No. When he was
Now,
next to guys
here's the
like
thing.
John Cena, and they had that level of feud, the Taker feuds, he was in there with Jordans, and he played a hell of a role as that secondary guy. And you would still tune in to see what Pippen would do, like an Edge. He could carry certain games, so you certain Raw, certain SmackDowns. He was basically the face of SmackDown for a few years, so we got to give him his due. But Mount Rushmore, he didn't main event enough WrestleManias, and he didn't just have a prominent role to be Mount Rushmore.
So here's my question. That take that you have, I totally get it, and I agree with you. But my thing is, I agree with you now in 2020 because of the lack of edge we got to get. So my question for you is that take the same the day before he comes out on Raw and says, "Hey, I can't do this anymore"?
He was never that guy to me, and I love Edge. Edge was he was a good piece of the puzzle.
I never saw him as that guy either.
Okay. See, I thought for me, and I'll be completely honest, for me, that trajectory, like that broke my heart when he said and I was praying. I was like, "Oh, this is a joke, right?" I mean, he just main evented last night and won. Like, this is a joke, you know? And for me, I thought he was absolutely on his way to taking over the company.
I got a question for Ray. Since your criteria is so based on drawing power, how is Andre the Giant not in your top 4?
Because the other 4 did more. It's really simple, you know.
Yeah.
Andre the Giant is a legend, hands down. If Mount Rushmore had 5, he'd be 5th, you know. But when I look at what The Rock did, to me, The Rock has done the most with professional wrestling that you can possibly do. He's taken it the furthest, as far as going from the ring, crossing over, and then when he came back, even if you didn't like it, I know a lot of the diehards didn't like it when he came back, but he came back, essentially main evented 3 straight WrestleManias again. Not many guys can say that they did that twice. The Rock can. You know, Stone Cold, he saved the wrestling business. Point blank, period. He did that. Like, where wrestling was, especially for the WWE, maybe not so much WCW, where the WWE was at, the WWF at the time, they needed a super mega star. Stone Cold did that, ran far. And we already know what time it is with Flair and Hogan. I don't need to explain their credentials. So if you're telling me, if you want to put Andre above The Rock, that's fine. But part of the reason why I'm here is to give The Rock his flowers, because it's become too cool for wrestling fans to act like The Rock didn't happen and he didn't do certain things and he didn't carry the business. There was a year-long period when Stone Cold was out that no one almost ever talks about. And The Rock carried the WWF. It wasn't
I talk about that all the time, which is one of the reasons why I disqualify Stone Cold, because multiple times he took his ball and went home.
Jay, you had another point to make before I get to final picks?
Yeah, I just wanted to going back to your boy's theory of Miz.
He's stuck on that one.
We talked about last Monday him getting the case back. I think a lot of that is USA going to WWE and saying, "Yo, keep our guy relevant. Whatever you got to do, even if he doesn't win the title, just make sure he's relevant." And I think the same can be said with what Disney did with Sasha Banks. Is, you know, she's on a few of our shows on The Mandalorian. Keep her relevant any way you can. And that's Vince taking the money and say, "Yes, sir, I will do what you need to be done." And I don't know who that jabroni GM is on Raw, but get him out of here. He is like, he has no charisma. He's just like, every time I see him, I'm like, who is
Adam,
this guy?
Adam Pearce?
Adam Pearce is a long-time indie star.
Listen.
He didn't have it.
One thing I will say before I get to this list is I kind of agree with Ray's list. I always go by, ask someone who's walking on the street, a random person, do they know Ric Flair? They know Ric Flair. Do they know Stone Cold? They know Stone Cold. Do they know The Rock? Do they know Austin? So for me, in that GOAT mantra, when somebody who's not a consistent pro wrestling fan can name wrestlers, those top 4, they know who they are. For me, that's GOAT criteria. That's just how I see it. With that said, Matt.
So hold on, Carl, real quick before we move on. I do want to ask you a question because you didn't touch up on it. Why were you surprised that Jericho made the list twice?
I honestly
and he made
didn't.
It twice.
He just slipped my mind when I was thinking about it. I think like 5 would probably be Cena, because again, you're looking at the top guy. Jericho was never really the top per se guy. And all these guys, some of these guys that we've listed have been the top guys. Jericho just didn't. And when you guys mentioned, I'm like, oh wow, I completely forgot that Jericho would be qualified.
Even in AEW, people were still waiting for Kenny to get the title the whole time. The entire existence of AEW was for Kenny to get where he is right now.
Yeah, exactly.
But see, but they couldn't put the title on Kenny because most U.S. fans did not know who he was.
They didn't know who he was at that level.
The people that Carl's talking about are the casuals. The casuals have no idea who Kenny Omega is, but they do know Chris Jericho.
Right. For TNT, they needed Jericho to get the title, but AEW came with a fan base who would have tuned in if Kenny got the title night one.
Yeah.
But that's a very small fan base, not a large enough fan base for that cable network, which is why they put the title on Chris Jericho. Because Chris Jericho,
they're going to be there regardless.
Jericho as champion validated AEW because people.
That's a good point. But you said it, Jarvis. You said it. It was TNT. I think what kind of segue. It's like it validated A&E, but it validated A&E on TV. So to get that viewership, to get people to draw in initially, you needed a Jericho more than you needed a Kenny Omega.
Jay, go ahead. Last one.
Carl, I'm going to really surprise you with this one. If there was a fifth, it wouldn't have been John Cena for me. It would have been Brock Lesnar.
Oh man,
that's not. That's a tough one.
Listen, for the same reasons y'all coming at me.
No, don't even equate Brock Lesnar with The Miz.
Okay,
you don't equate 2.5 weeks.
Brock Lesnar?
That's a good one. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so Matt, out of your four, who makes the list?
HBK. This man saying The Miz.
Ray?
I gotta go with The Rock. He's the only man who's WrestleMania. He was in the ring with Hogan, Stone Cold, Cena, and Flair. Only one man can say that. The People's Champion.
Shawn Michaels can say that.
Jay?
Gotta be
at WrestleMania?
Hogan for me.
Hogan. And let's go, Rick.
Oh yeah, 2020 pandemic quarantine.
God.
Give me The Miz. Happy New Year, baby.
Come on, bro. Stop.
See, that's it. See, Carl.
That's it.
See, Carl.
Shut it down.
First of
you
all,
shouldn't have let me go last.
That's just irresponsible. That's what that is.
So we have Hogan, HBK, Miz, and The Rock. I know we're not satisfied.
Oh man, yo.
Oh, that whole
listen, chill. Come on, man. Y'all know I'm buck. Y'all know I'm tripping.
You better say something.
It's Jericho, man. It's Jericho.
Better be something sensible.
It's Jericho. Stop it. It's Jericho, man. Come on.
I didn't know, man. I didn't know how you were gonna leave this off. Okay, so we got Hogan, HBK, Jericho, and The Rock. Are we satisfied?
I'm satisfied with that.
Yeah, I like it.
Say it again, Carl.
Cool with it.
It's Hogan, HBK, Jericho, and The Rock.
Flair's got to make that list.
Flair's opening the door, right? Flair's opening the door. I mean, we got to sneak Flair in the corner somewhere.
So we have some issues here. So I think.
See, here's the thing. Here's the problem.
See, I can live with that because Flair, I respect him, but he's not one of my favorites. So I'm
Matt,
okay with that.
Matt, for the interest of pro wrestling, are you willing to move HBK off of Flair?
No.
Oh my God.
Because as great as Flair was, he could not go like Shawn. And
Shawn didn't draw half the money Flair drew, bro. Come on.
Nobody drew money during that time frame. Wrestling companies, WCW wasn't drawing during '94 with Hogan.
Was when WWE was always going in the toilet. What are you talking about?
The wrestling business is cyclic. It has high peaks and low peaks. They put the title on Shawn during low peak because WCW wasn't drawing money neither. And they had the biggest star in the world in Hogan.
The company was losing money. Like we're not gonna pretend
and
like
so was WCW.
Because you left a couple of flips in the ring. Stop.
WCW was losing money with Hogan, and he's the biggest star ever.
Can I make a quick challenge?
That time was just bad.
Okay, go ahead, Jay.
But he also changed the game. Did anybody else have a ladder match that changed how wrestling?
Okay, 1 second. Jay, go ahead.
Quick
Did he close the show? He wasn't even the top draw tonight.
I want the rest of the panel to finish this line. I'm a jet flying. Go ahead.
Limousine riding.
Come on.
Yeah, it's tough. Look, here's the thing. Wrestling, unfortunately, wrestling suffers from what none of these other sports suffer from. There is no positions. There's no category breakdowns. You know what I mean? It's impossible to just pick four.
So Matt, again, are you willing to move HBK off?
No way, because the HBK is responsible for too many great matches. Jay's talking about Taker, and I'm not knocking Taker, but half of Taker's great matches were against Shawn Michaels.
Okay, so Jay, are you willing to move Hogan off? So Jay,
Flair's best.
Flair.
Most people say Flair's best match was against Michaels in his retirement match.
Okay,
you don't get that without Shawn.
Okay, so
Sean deserves that.
Okay, so I know Ray's not going to move off The Rock for Flair.
Oh.
Hogan, are you willing, Jay? Are you willing to move off Hogan for Flair?
I can't, just because Hulk Hogan is the biggest star that the sport has ever seen. Hogan was bigger than Ric Flair in the 80s by far. So I can't take Hogan off that list.
So we're at a standstill. This is what it is. Hogan, HBK, Jericho, and The Rock. That's it.
You got to go with it.
That's it. I know some people. I know this will cause some rift in the hit list streets, but
hey, don't be mad at me, Ray, because Rick's the one who had the Miz on his list. Okay.
You're absolutely right. It's not your fault. It's Rick's fault. Let me look at Rick.
Hey, Rick.
Where are you?
Rick, where are you, man? You're frozen up there, bro. Everybody's blaming you. Well, that'll do it for the Sports Hit List by the fans and for the fans. Matt, you want to give a shout out to your podcast?
Yes, appreciate it. Check out the original Geek podcast where we talk about all things sports, all things geek, and check out our pro wrestling show, Breaking Ring Rust. Both of those by Geek Nation.
And Ray, you want to give a shout out to your stuff?
Shout out to the Gray Area. That's my sports show, political talk here and there. We got the Rap Roundtable coming out New Year's Day with special guest Rome Streets. If you're a rap fan, if you're into hip hop, Rome Streets is about to be out of there. We somehow got him to come on the pod and actually stay for the whole pod. So tap in New Year's Day.
Rick, everyone's blaming you, sir. They say it's your fault for not putting Flair on here. So I hope you listen, but it's all your fault again. You did it again because Jericho could have.
No. Hey, look. I would have went with, even if I had Flair on mine, it would have been Jericho. Jericho and Shawn absolutely is going to get on there. So.
Look out for 2021. We have a show coming with Hollywood Jay, a pro wrestling show. We're going to work on me and him. He's definitely going to be producing that. So make sure you check out all the content. And I'll talk to you guys soon. You guys enjoy the new year. Take care.
Thank you, Carl.
All right.
Thanks for watching the Sports Hit List. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. In fact, do it now.